Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Firstly, I wanted to thank the Australia-China Business Council for putting on this event. It's a really auspicious year, this year of the dragon, that Australia and China are celebrating 40 years of engagement. A number of really exciting things are happening. We've got the government white paper, which a lot of us who've been dealing with China for a long time think is well overdue, but it is an exciting opportunity to have our voices heard about how we can take the next 40 years of engagement with China into a completely different level. The topic assigned to me was doing business in China, and it's not something you can cover in 10 minutes. As I'm sure many of you know, it's complex, it can take a long time to explain, and absolutely years to get right. Just to set the context, I've just come back from living in Hong Kong for the last 5 years, and I spent most of those 5 years doing business in China. I ran the firm's Hong Kong office as international managing partner, and we grew our offices in Beijing and Shanghai. During that time, I also did a lot of inbound and outbound work, so acting for Australian companies investing in China and acting for Chinese companies investing offshore, including Australia. So I've been doing that type of work for a long time. I also sit on the board of Toll Holdings, which is a significant Australian transport company that also has a big operation in China. So I think I've got a good perspective from the professional services sector, but also from the corporate sector as well. I wanted to share some ideas about China's growth, its projected future on the global stage, and how we at King & Wood Mallesons believe we should engage with China as a professional services firm providing legal services. We are the first and only firm at the moment in the world to combine with a Chinese law firm. We did so on 1 March this year. So the Australian firm Mallesons Stephen Jakes merged with the Chinese firm King & Wood. We've been in China for 20 years, and I'd like to think that we know how to do business with China, although it's been an interesting process. How to navigate the sometimes complex regulatory landscape, as well as the cultural nuances which many Western organisations find challenging. We're the only law firm in the world able to practice Chinese law, Australian law, English law, and Hong Kong law, and that puts us in a unique position. We're also one of the truly regional law firms to emerge out of an industry where there's been a lot of change over the last couple of years. The Chinese have some time been determined to open up their economy, and we've all benefited from that. Their 5-year plan includes working with foreign companies in China and abroad across a wide range of industries. This month at the National People's Congress, Wen Jiabao, the Chinese Premier, said that reform in China is the future. And increasingly, as the West begins to understand the new China and how to do business with China, the opportunities in the region become clear. One of the things I've always found exciting in doing business in China is the five-year plans that the central government promulgate, because they set a very clear path about what China's going to do, and it actually provides a very clear idea of how we can change the way we operate to fit in with what China's going to do. The one thing I've learned about being involved in China for such a long time is when they say they're going to do something, they actually do it. It took us 150 years to build a railway between Adelaide and Darwin. It took the Chinese 5 years to build a super railway between Beijing and Shanghai. And I think that gives you an idea about just how focused China is on their growth. From the Australian context, Wayne Swan said this week that as a nation, we need to understand and gear ourselves to be an Asian future, not an island that has somehow been misplaced and should be off the coast of the UK. Otherwise, we risk being a passenger in the Asian century, a clear signal to business that trade with China is a big part of our future. I'm going to race through the next couple of slides because I'm going to try and keep to my 10 minutes as well, and that's a very difficult thing for lawyers to do. For the last 30 years, the world's economic centre of gravity has actually moved from west to east. And I think that's been very exciting. And we are part of that. We are an Asian country. It's shifting away from the old world of the US and Europe and heading steadily towards the Asian region. China's share of the world's GDP is growing and very fast. By 2016, it is estimated to be the same as the USA. The US share of world GDP has fallen from 25% in 1990 to an estimated 18% in 2016. By 2025, China will be home to 14 of the world's top 50 cities. And I find this statistic really exciting, and I've been to a lot of these cities in China. 15 cities that are currently considered top global cities will lose this status by 2025, and one of those cities is in Australia. China's investment in Australia is evidenced by the value of Foreign Investment Review Board approvals, moving from 9th place in 2006-2007 to 2nd in 2009-2010. And Australia figures high on China's outbound investment strategy, with a massive 34% of outbound investment and contracts larger than $100 million. And you can't go a week, and it's been like this for about 4 or 5 years, without hearing about a new significant investment by a Chinese company in Australia. It's largely been around resources, mining services, but increasingly the Chinese are branching out into other industries, mine being an example. Just over 46% of Australian goods exports to China and just 9.5% go to the US. The other interesting statistic here is we've split these the balls between goods and services, the services being blue, which is a part of this session, and that is a real increasing focus for the Australian services sector and its investment in China. So it's estimated by 2050 China will be the leading economy in the world. So all these figures tell us that if we don't engage with China, we will be left behind. This growth is not a coincidence. It's been brought about, as I said before, by decades of national and regional cooperative efforts and the Chinese 5-year plan, and their really, really good ability to actually see into the future and see what they have to do to change the way they operate. Through massive regional integration, growing cross-border trades, financial flows and movement of people, the region is actually integrating with itself. And I saw that when I was living in Hong Kong. You know, the flow of trades is now intra-Asia. We're becoming increasingly largely independent of trade with the Western economies of Europe and the USA. So doing business in China requires us to understand the political regime, the cultural diversity, the historical context, the mindset and the language. And as some of you in this room who know me know, one of my big passions is to make sure that Australia becomes Asian literate very quickly, because if we don't, all these opportunities that we have to progress our economy, grow our industry by trade into China, we will lose if we don't understand how to operate with China, and if we don't give particularly our children the language skills to be able to operate on a global stage where most Chinese students emerge from school and university being able to speak 3 languages, at least 3 languages fluently, and understand the cultures of a lot of countries that they're interested in. We should not be timid in our engagement, and we need to be clear why we're engaging with China. And I think this is one of the exciting reasons why I'm really behind the government's white paper idea. Australia wants to be and needs to be famous for being more than just a farm and a mine. And we've got a lot of other fantastic industries. We've already heard about the property sector, we've got my sector, we've got other professional services, we've got great industries right across the spectrum of commerce that we can really demonstrate to China that we can add value. The integration of financial markets, and this is one of them I want to highlight, is a necessary factor in the development of a more broad and deeper level of engagement with China. We would recommend it as a firm for further dialogue between industry, government and policy experts from Australia and the region to propel this forward. And we should in particular leverage Australia's strong financial services sector, especially in the funds management sector, in the capital markets sector, in corporate governance, to promote Australia as a regional financial centre within Asia. With this, we should leverage the growing use of the Chinese RMB as a regional and inevitably international trading currency. And there are fantastic opportunities for Australia to actually take a lead role in the development of the RMB as a global currency. Energy and resources, food and agriculture, commodities generally are going to be in increasing demand, and we need better and clearer dialogue between China and Australia to get a better understanding of China's future needs and Australia's interests as a major supplier of raw materials. And this is where we've seen most of the M&A activity over the last 4 to 5 years. It's in resources and increasingly in agriculture. And the opportunities for our sectors through more collaborative economic relationships will benefit from having that dialogue now and not later. And what we're now seeing is the second generation of Chinese investment. So they've made their initial investment in our Australian companies. They're now putting money in to getting projects off the ground that a lot of our companies have had stalled for a long time. And that's actually a really exciting thing that's happening where we're involved in acting for Chinese banks who are funding Chinese companies to actually do projects that have been sitting in mothballs basically in Australia for the last, who knows. So the time is right for us to engage with China, to be bold, to think big, to do business with a nation that is on the rise, and to play an active and not passive role in doing business with China. I want to thank you, and I hope I kept to my 10 minutes. And as I said at the outset, the whole topic about doing business with China is a very complex one, but I like to think we're taking small baby steps to actually get it right. Thank you.